Can anyone catch them, do you think?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, unbelievable. We didn't expect that.
As unbelievable as it sounds, this is another Arsenal podcast. That is the Away Gooners podcast. We bring news and reaction from Arsenal fans from all over the world. Hi everyone, welcome again to another episode of the Away Gooners podcast. We have got our regular gang together with us in Bob, Arun, and Ellen. Hi, Arun.
Howdy,
Hi
guys.
Vijay. Hi Arun, hi Bob.
Even after the loss, I don't feel that defeated. The last couple of wins, we were so defeated. But today, I feel like we were a little bit positive about it, and we are having a high back from everyone, including Bob today. So just to get the pod going, right? Like let's just go ahead with the initial reaction of the 3-1 loss. I mean, it's the same result as the one we got with Emery at the end, but the results seem like a lot different. The mood seems a lot different than the 3-1 loss that we suffered with Emery at the head. Bob, what do you say about that? What do you feel about that?
See, yes, you could argue that the result, that Emery got and then the one which Arteta got are both the same. But I mean, for one who had actually seen both those games, you could see the vast difference in terms of the way that the team is playing, which is very, very, very different. There was absolutely no game plan when Emery went there with his team, and Liverpool just smacked us all over the park. And then the only thing that we came back, or we were lucky with, which just stick to the 3-1 loss that we had. So this result was very different in a way because Arteta set up to a very, very specific way, and he almost was succeeded. I mean, if a little bit luck was on our side, maybe we could have actually come back with a point. But yeah, I mean, again, Liverpool won the game fair and square thanks to their quality and then the way that they are at the moment. So it's very difficult to stop them. Maybe, as I said the other day, if we had been very lucky, we could have managed to come with a point, not definitely with a win. But that's as much about football, you know. I mean, it doesn't favor you every time. If it comes to you, you got to be seizing the moment, which we didn't. Yeah.
Okay. Ellen, your thoughts on the game? Just a quick thought on the game. Do you think this is better than Emery's game, or do you think, yeah, it's the same? Like at the end of the day, results is what it counts.
No, this is actually a lot more better. Like for few things. One is like we were very close to drawing the game, except for few errors by few individuals. This would have been like a drawn game. And that's what Arteta was planning also. He was not trying to win there. That being said, right, like one big difference to what Emery's period and this period was that, even though we were losing 3-1 or 2-1, the team was still following the same exact instruction which Arteta was doing. They were behind the coach. See, when you are winning, you follow coach instruction. That's a different thing. They were losing, but they were still sticking to the coach's instruction, which was clearly visible. That kind of belief they have in Arteta, and that was visible in this loss. So it's definitely a different team compared to Emirates team. They trust in Arteta. They want to do everything for Arteta.
Fair enough. The coach has gained a lot of traction with the games, but in the long run, in a 38 game week, if you take up the schedule for Arsenal at the start of the season and look at the games that we would lose points, Liverpool at Anfield would be the first game where we would lose points. Is it, Arun? Is that how you see it?
Okay, where do I start? Liverpool, Anfield, City at Etihad, Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. These are the games that I expect us to lose points. Leicester away as well. But if you talk about this game and if you talk about how we're playing in general and what it bodes for the next 35 weeks together, I see the difference is that there was no standout performer. There was no one individual good performer, but we played well as a team. If you think about the individual performances, everybody had a decent to bad game, I would say. There was no one standout player. But as a team, we managed to play well, which is very surprising because this would have never happened with Emery, like Bob and Ellen said. Like there was no plan, nothing was going on. But the very fact that we were able to play well as a team against the champions, mind you, these guys are at a totally different level. Liverpool are playing at a totally different level. I wasn't expecting a draw. I wasn't expecting a win either. I knew we were going to lose. But the way in which we lost kind of gave me hopes because it's more about the team mentality. It's not about individual players. We are not like a team that's struggling to, avoid relegation, depending on one talisman to take us through. No, we're not like that anymore. I know we were like that with Aubameyang doing everything, but it seems like the focus is kind of shifting away from that with the collective performance that the team put in. Everybody was willing to go. Everybody was willing to put in their shift. There were talks that, right in the middle of the game, we got scared and Xhaka was yelling, we're getting scared, we're getting scared. That is a bit of a negative, but I think I'm pretty sure we'll be able to iron that out. If you ask me about the next 38 games and what next 35 games and what this bodes for the season, I'm pretty sure it bodes well for us. The very fact that we're able to do something like this away at the champions, we almost came close to equalizing. Had Lacazette scored that goal, had it been 2-2, things might have gone either way. Liverpool would try and attack all the time after that. And our entire game plan was setting on nicking a goal off the counter. So that would have very well worked in our favor, but it's all ifs and buts, right? So at this point, I feel things are looking good for the next 38 games. Again, I'm not saying that we're going to be finishing top 4 or anything, but we would have a good chance with a couple of additions. But right now, I'm happy with the gameplay. I'm actually satisfied with what we did.
Okay, yeah. To put it into a context, this is Liverpool's 61st game winning at their home. That's how good they've been at Anfield. But even then, but the thing is, Bob, you mentioned that Liverpool were like runaway winners, but they were not at their best. When they started, it was not. They had a plan against us, but you could see that there were moments where things could have gone differently, especially like Mane getting that yellow in the 3rd minute, right? Even before that, he had this incident with Hector where he collided with him, which should have been an yellow. In which case, the Tierney incident where he actually got an yellow would have been the 2nd yellow. People are calling it like an orange card, more red than yellow. So, what do you see about that?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of games where there have been more softer yellows, isn't it? So that definitely could have been an yellow, but yeah, I think what I would think of as an incident is Mane somehow got out with it, maybe luck favoring them or whatever. So, but yeah, I think he somehow got away from that. There's been a lot of incidents you could point at where it's been an yellow card, and then things could have had a different outcome altogether, from that 2nd incident. So Mane would have more been pegged back from that, and then he would have not done as much attacking as the way that he would have. I mean, he went on to do without the card, but ultimately it is what it is, and then we just have to chin up and then move on from that fact. I'm not saying that we've been denied something very blatant, but in the context of so many things which has happened in the past, this is an incident which is not so significant, I would think. Yeah.
So
I can see some heads nodding at me, but yeah, no, I'm happy.
So Ellen, you can go ahead. I see that Mane was the man of the match at the end of the day. Right, for Liverpool, he was the man of the match.
I want to add a few things here, Vijay. See, first of all, if you see the last few games of Liverpool and Arsenal, right, the big difference is Mane. And if you see the Tierney incident in isolation, right, he will not do that while playing for a ball or anything. He will just manhandle Tierney. And if you have seen in the Premier League games, for that, even top strikers like Aguero has been given a red card and match is banned. This is because it is making an injury to the other player. See, that being said, right, I will agree with Bob on that. That didn't make the result to go that way. Say, Liverpool's good quality is what got them the result. And I'm also not saying it is biased on Arsenal. How normally it comes, the referees are biased on Arsenal. I'm not going to that route also. But what I'm going to talk here is why referee would have given that as an yellow. The only reason is like if you see most of the Premier League matches or even world matches, the first 5-10 minutes, right, when there is even a big foul, right, like they generally tend to avoid giving red. Sometimes they even like avoid giving yellow, which they normally would have given like if it was after say 60th or 70th minute. So
But is
that
that
is, I think,
but is that
that is
right?
not correcting. No, that is not correcting. But I'm just trying to think from the other side and like not this referee. It's like majority of the referees do that. Like a rule is a rule, so he should have got red. But like I can understand why an yellow was given to him. And as I said, right, like that was not the main reason why we lost. So like even though like I disagree with Bob on like that's not a red card. Like it is definitely a red card. But I'm just trying to think from an referee's angle why he hasn't given it, because that's what we have seen it. Like if you take that incident as isolation, many people would have given it as like red only, many referees. But like if you take like the first 5 minutes time period also, right, like 90% of the referees would have given it as yellow only. And that's what happened in that match.
But the thing is, this shows what Liverpool has come up as a plan, right? Their plan was to press us, to get us pushed into a zone. We could see that happening with Xhaka, where they were pushing Xhaka from making like any of the moves, from turning over. Were there any surprises with the starting lineup? And the first goal that Arsenal scored, because that's the first actual incident. We could give up things like, okay, yeah, Leno made those couple of saves. We kind of lived on the edge where we were trying to defend for our life and stuff. But the first breakaway that Arsenal had, we scored a goal. I mean, it was not the perfect goal that we wanted, but we scored a goal. So talk us about the goal, Ellen.
Yeah, just to like your first question on like the starting lineup, like I was not surprised to see like El Neni, which many people would have thought, because like for me this was a clear plan by Arteta that like we will like defend and attack on counter, and then like after 60-70 minutes bring on our fast runners or like attacking players and try to win it in the last 20 minutes. Exactly the pattern which Jose Mourinho will do against teams like Pep Guardiola's team. Like he has done it in Chelsea, he has done it in Inter, like with Barcelona at that time. Like he has done many times with Real Madrid too. That was more like the template, like we were following it up. But that being said, this time Liverpool was much more smarter. Like they were continuously pressing our teams, and people like Xhaka and Rob Holding in particular were trying very difficult and like were failing like while trying to build up from the back. So Liverpool were continuously attacking and like they were looking like to score a goal, and all of a sudden this happened. A good counter-attacking opportunity started by Lacazette and finished again by Lacazette. Thanks very big to like Robertson's error. And after that, right, like I could see like even VVD making an error like for the first time in the entire game period, right, where Liverpool went little bit back. But that was a very short duration because they clawed back. But like that was the thing. It was like, and on the play goal, it was nothing specific or planned or anything. Like it was just like a counter-attacking goal started by Lacazette, who passed it to AMN, and then like AMN's cross, like Lacazette was there again to finish it off.
Bob, go ahead.
No, I think I just wanted to add to Ellen's point that with Liverpool, right? So if you look at their gameplay, not just with us, you could look at any games. So they will be keeping a very high line, as what Ellen mentioned. So which makes it easier for all of them to press high. Which also leaves them an error, margin of error. And it's almost predictable that in every game, there will be one such moment where they would open up. And if at all a good counter-attacking team, would use those pockets of space to actually go forward. And then Lacazette just exactly did that. It was perfectly worked in our favor in terms of the gameplay. And then we were able to exploit Liverpool in that area, and we hurt them as well. That was actually the best part of it. It was a clear poacher's goal, and Arteta very well expected Liverpool to make that mistake, and he actually set up Maitland-Niles and Lacazette to use that space and then to score that goal. It was tremendous play. Just that the sad part was we didn't actually hold on to that lead for long, as we all know. Partly due to I would say it was more due to Rob Holding not being firm, and then Bayern I thought was very poor that day. Yeah.
But the thing is, when we are talking about that goal, it started with the playing out from the back. We started with playing out from the back, and like we tried that playing out from back a couple of times, which Liverpool kind of stopped us from doing exactly the same by pressing Xhaka so well. But that was a ball that was played by Xhaka to. It was almost like a half a field pass from Xhaka to Lacazette, who then plays that first touch pass to Maitland-Niles, which makes me think with the pressure that was on Xhaka from not allowing him to make his passes, that was a plan to let Xhaka have the moment so that Elneny could screen and then Xhaka could have his moment, pick up the passes. That was the plan. That was what I could see as a plan. But when it was not working, when it worked one time, but it was not working from then on, and Liverpool kind of used that as their point to kind of like push us into a zone. There was this wave and wave of attack from Liverpool, right? Like, and then it led to the goal that Salah created, Mane finished, and all those errors that we keep talking about. Tierney making that error on Salah, and all those things. But Arun, the goal was like expected, right? Like we expected that goal from Liverpool, from Salah, from Mane.
You're right. You can never keep that Mane guy quiet. He's probably the best player in the team. He's the one who makes the differences.
In the league.
Might be someone who slaps Katie, but he's the one who makes all the difference. So there's
In-
one guy outside of Arsenal that I like in the league. It's him. He's unbelievable. He makes that team tick. But the thing was, our defense, like first starting with that tackle on Keita, someone should have had him. Either Lewis or Xhaka should have had him. We have played advantage. And then what they do, no one goes for the ball. It's crazy. No one went for the ball. Firmino had all the time in the world to turn around and slip a simple pass in for Salah. I was really surprised. Both of them were just standing there. It made no sense to me. And then Salah just skins Tierney. I mean, like, I think this is Katie's first big test. Like playing against, like, I think he's realizing what he's coming to now. Like Katie is amazing, no doubt about that. But he was due for a bad game. And I'm happy that it happened in a game against the champions. You don't really want it to happen against like a low-level team where that could be the reason for us dropping points. Here, this is a game that I know for sure that we don't have a lot of chance to win. And if this is the bad game that KD is going to have, I'm fine with that. But everything that led to the goal, everything that happened in the build-up to the goal, clearly kind of for me demonstrated the vast gulf in quality in like the cohesion in the way in which teams have been functioning. It just clearly showed, in that one particular goal. Here we are talking a lot, by bigging our team up for playing a system that has been set in place for 9 months, and we're playing against a team that has been doing the same drills over and over again for the last 3 to 4 years with a core that has been very stable. That makes a huge difference in the way in which teams play the game. And that was very evident in the second goal. They knew who they had to target. They knew they had to target Xhaka and Lewis. It was very simple. And Katie, like at that point, I don't think he had a chance. So everything that happened in the goal for me just showed the gulf in, the quality and the gameplay. That's all it showed for me. Because
I think Arteta as well acknowledged that fact in his post-match conference, that you could see the difference in the class between the two teams.
Exactly.
Rather than actually pointing other things to blame at, he actually took note of that, and then he pretty much mentioned it plain and simple. Yeah.
The stat that shows how much of a gulf in quality we are is like Liverpool had 21 shots and we had 4.
I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis on that, just because we were set up to play that way. The team went to Anfield and was set up to play that way. We were supposed to take 4 or 5 shots, convert 1 or 2 of them, and make a draw. That was the plan. So Liverpool coming with 21 shots, they're playing at home. They're playing against a defense that has Lewis, Holding, and Katie, who was not at his best. Very expected. And you have Elneny in the middle. It's not, there's no midfield cover. So the 21 shots and the 4 shots comparison, I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis on that, just because it was the way in which we are set up. But it's more about like how the passing was going on, how the teams were set up, and how they literally skinned us for the first goal. So that's where I feel like the quality was very apparent. The gulf was very apparent.
Okay. Um, to go from the first goal, we would have to go to the second goal, which Robertson scored. I mean, everyone were talking about how he made the mistake to the first goal that Arsenal scored. But there is an interesting stat that I could throw about Robertson is that of the last 8 games that he has played, he has scored or assisted in 7 of them. So it was like he would do it. At the end of the day, that's going to happen. And the second goal was like created by both the left back, like both the fullbacks for Liverpool, like just coming from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Like the ball was like so inviting, and like where was Willian for that goal? Ellen, do you think that that was Willian's fault, like the second goal?
No, I would say it's both Willian and Bellerin's fault, but more on Willian's side. Like Willian didn't track back at all. Like that was like one of the major reasons. But Bellerin was also partially like on fault there. Like he was also not doing his positioning proper. So it was like everybody's mistake. It was like a collective team mistake, is what I will say.
Mm-hmm.
And as Arun said, like the Gulf and class might be a reason for that, because like they are playing this system in day out for like 3 to 4 years. We have just started, and like Willian is again a new player to the system. So like when Liverpool pressed, right, there will be definitely some panic and other things. So because of that, right, like you might not be able to do what you are like practicing in the like training ground. So I think it might be like that could be. See, I'm trying to see it in an optimistic way, but like definitely it's Bellerin's and Willian's fault.
But the
We
thing
could
is,
have like easily stopped that goal. Like that was like
yeah,
not
but
a great goal.
yeah, but my point is, right, like Willian was preferred over Pepe in that game for that defensive stability, right? Like Pepe would not do, at least that's what I thought. The point of picking Willian ahead of Pepe for that game was exactly that Pepe would not be able to track back, would not be able to stick to the position as Arteta intends. And this is a clearly a point to prove that it's not so. Willian might not do.
Just to stop you there,
Yeah.
you said Pepe might not stick to the position, but what position was Willian sticking to?
Exactly. That's my point, right? Like, so in that regard, do you see us dropping Willian and like picking Pepe up for the rest of the season? Because we are not looking like we are going to sign any wingers. So is it like, or is it like it's a one game? Let's leave it at that. Arun,
I
what do
think
you
it's
think?
too early to call,
Yeah,
in
Bob,
my
go ahead.
opinion.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just going to say it's too early to call for Williams said at the moment. So I'll probably give 10 more games for him to see how he does, especially in the big games, to see if in case he should be more flexible to track back. But then, I mean, earlier you mentioned about the stat on Robertson. It quite sums up his gameplay as well. So he has the knack of moving those intelligent runs. And I mean, Firmino, for one, like I said, as we have compared, they're different players again. But then they have the ability to hold on players from the opposition and create spaces for the fullbacks to penetrate and then move in, which is very, very intelligent. So the last thing that you would have expected, or Bellerin could have expected from the right wing, is for Robertson to come in and then pounce on the cross to score a goal. And he just played into, I mean, we played into his step, that we could say. So, I mean, you could do all the tracking. I mean, you have to be more vigilant, especially when playing against Liverpool. That's for sure that Willian would have learned from the game. But even with that, the level that they are in, they can exactly know how to actually weaken you, or try to find out gaps in you, which is what Robertson did.
Yeah, Ellen.
Just to add one thing here, like if you see right in the very beginning of second half, Willian would have tracked back and saved the goal. Like that showed like he has learned from his earlier mistake. That is expected from a senior professional too. So I don't expect like Pepe to come in very quickly, like to replace Willian. As Bob said, like we will be seeing like again another like run of games, after which only it will happen. But because like there are other games also, the European games and other things. So Pepe is not like idle. Like he's going to start week in week out also. So I expect Willian to continue until like say November beginning or like November late.
I see a lot of conversation around Pepe, right? Like Arun, go ahead.
If I may just add on, I think I have a very different view on that. For me, I believe that Willian is a player who should be used more as an impact player, or like someone who can bully the teams like Fulham, the ones that are like 14 to 20 sort of. So those are the teams where like we need a guy like Willian. But apart from that, if we were to be playing like the top teams, I think we should be playing Pepe, because I'm like, it's not just because I want him to do well or I'm like a big fan. It's just the very fact that he has something that Willian doesn't. Willian might have the experience, but Pepe has that X factor. So in that sense, I would really feel that it should be Nico starting the games with Willian coming in as an impact player. And one last point about the fullbacks, I really believe that there's no comparison, because we're talking about like the gold standard of fullbacks in the Premier League when we talk about Liverpool's Robertson and TA. So I really don't think there's any comparison. We can only expect like KT and Barron to be half as good as they are for us to have any impact. So that would be my thing. And I would definitely feel that Willian should be used as more as an impact player.
So actually, we finished the first half kind of with Liverpool on top, but then like I felt that we kind of grew into the game in the second half, especially after the substitutions. Ellen, what do you think of the substitutions when we brought in like Ceballos in for Xhaka? I expected Elneny to be replaced, to be frank, and then like Xhaka to be replaced. It was a bit of a shock, because you rarely see Xhaka being taken out of the game. You always see him. The last instance I remember him being substituted was at the dreaded Crystal Palace game where he had that meltdown. But like under Emery and Arteta, I've not seen a lot of replacement where Xhaka is being substituted on. So was that a bit of a statement from Arteta, or like was that needed?
No, I think like Arteta continued with his tactics. Like as I said at the very beginning of the part, he had a clear tactics. Like we will be like defensive, we will do counter-attacking, and we will do like other attacks when like at the last 20-30 minutes, like when like the opponents will be tired and like they will not do that kind of a press they were doing, and like we will use our attackers at that time to attack. And Arteta went exactly on that. See, I could see two reasons why like we did was like Xhaka was little bit struggling due to the press, and like we needed defensive stability because Rob Holding was also struggling at the back like compared to his earlier games. So retaining Elneny will give you that defensive formation still, like without like losing anything. And Ceballos, right, like he was not asked to play his usual role that day. Like he was allowed to roam freely more compared to the other games, because he knows like Arteta was like, this was more like Arteta trying to outsmart like a Klopp. Klopp was doing more pressing so that like our back play doesn't happen. He was trying to do outsmart that by allowing Ceballos to make use of the high line which Liverpool was like playing. And we, in fact, like did a lot of good things after Ceballos came in. The other substitutes were straightforward. Pepe for Willian or Nketiah like coming very late was like trying to get something as like plan B. But like the Ceballos substitution was Xhaka was mainly for that, like without affecting our defensive formation, like he wanted to attack in the second half.
Yeah, but then you were mentioning about Pepe substitution for Willian. Like the most volatile point on that was like the two failed or mishit corners that he took. Right, a lot of people have been slating him for those two corners. What was that? Arun, I can see you laughing. Go ahead.
Honestly, like I said before, I'm a huge Pepe fan and I want him to really do well. I know he can do well. But when I saw those corners, man, it was hilarious. Like you have a corner at that point where you have to make a difference. And what do? Hit it to the first man. I mean, come on, man. You're a professional. You're being paid like how much? 72 million? That's how much we paid for you. We're not a rich club. And you do that shit, man. Come on. It was crazy. But that's the thing.
But maybe that was a plan. Maybe there was a plan. Like
Plan what? Like to send it to the first player right there and waste the corner at that point? I really don't know. I don't think that was the plan there. So,
But
Arun,
because the thing is, right, like it was not like done once. I mean, it failed the first time, and he did exactly the same, and it was like minutes after,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So that makes me think, who's stupid there? Is it Arteta or Nico doing the same thing over and over again, knowing that it's failing? So I really don't know what was the point of all that. If Nico has to start, he's a player who thrives on confidence of the manager.
Mhm.
So Nico needs a good run. You cannot expect him to come there and just like me. He's completely short of confidence. You can see that in his gameplay. And you ask him to come and create an impact in the 80th minute. I mean, with the current thing, it's not going to happen. I know we paid like a lot of money for him, but it's not going to happen, and that showed in his gameplay. He was just nothing worked out for him. It was crazy that nothing worked out for him. But I to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't know who's most stupid at this point.
Ellen,
Arun, Vijay, you are worried about the corners. We had 2 foul throws by Bellerin in the same game.
oh yes.
Like that was even more worse than these corners.
Did you see him talking to the refs saying like I've been taking it the same way all my life?
Yes.
I was like what the fuck? Like it was completely like I've never seen it. Have you ever seen something like that, Bob? Like where 2 foul throws like awarded to like a player, any league? Like I've never seen it in any leagues.
See, I know Rory Delap is a free throw specialist, but even in this dream, I don't think he would have actually done any of those whatever that Bayern did.
And what was wrong? I mean, I don't get it. Like what was wrong about the throws? Like it looks
I think
same.
everything what Bayern did on that game was wrong. I felt his questioning was very wrong. Sorry guys. I think I mean overall I felt he had a very poor game. If at all, I mean I needed to give any marks, I probably would have actually given him 1 mark for actually trying to imitate Kieran Tierney by tucking in his shirt. That's as much as what he deserves in that game. He was absolutely he was not really doing anything that a defender should do or what a wing back should do, or at least what a team player should do in terms of covering things. You should not actually be marking the same player, or both more than one player should not be marking the same opponent, which is first basic rule of any defending. So he failed to do any of those. I don't know. Maybe I'm just hoping that it's just a blip for a game. And again, coming back to the corner, that was really poor. I don't know. I thought maybe when the looks of it, they had a very clear plan in terms of how to do, which is pass it to the first man and then try and penetrate the ball through the goal. But that was clearly not happening. And when they miss it that, or when Pepe miss it that for the first time, then he should have realized it's not working, and they should have gone in for the plan B or something, which they never had, I thought. So Liverpool were happy to concede those 2 corners, and they could have even conceded more of those.
But the thing is, right? We were talking about like the corners, especially with Van Dijk there, with the aerial powers of Liverpool. What would have happened if we would have gone for like a deep corner or a corner closer to the keeper? I mean, it would have been the same. Like Van Dijk would have cleared it very, very clearly. Maybe this is a plan. I'm being optimistic here. But yeah, moving on from that, right? Ceballos, when he came on, was really impactful. He created a lot of chances. So the elephant in the room, the missed chance of Lacazette. I mean, it was not the first chance he missed. The other one, maybe it would have been an offside just moments before that, which he didn't convert either. Arun.
Okay, so you're bringing in your attacking player, you're chasing the game, you're going for a goal, and this guy comes in and slips the most delicious pass that you can ever see. It's been a long time since I've seen a pass like that. And then he's splitting the Liverpool defense. It's not an ordinary defense, fucking Liverpool defense. And what does Lacazette do? Gets the ball. He doesn't even look up. He has everything premeditated. He wants to go to the right, and he doesn't even look up to just kick the ball up. Alisson had seen everything. I don't know how he saw that. I mean, like the way in which he moved to his left right away, he made himself big, and all that Lacazette could do was just hit the ball right at him. I mean, these are the chances that you would expect your premier striker to take. He's supposed to be a guy was setting like the French league on fire, and he was a guy who was our best team player of the last season, the season before, I think. When you have a guy like this, you would expect him to score 9 out of 10 times, and unfortunately for us, it was the one time that he wouldn't score that fell for us. That goal would have made a huge difference in the context of the game. We were 2-1 down, totally short on confidence. And that goal would have meant that we were 2-all and given us more of a chance, because Liverpool, after that point, would have gone for goal for sure. We were going for 1 point, they were going for 3. That makes a huge difference. Your objectives make a huge difference on the outcome of the game and the way in which you play the game. So at that point, when it was 2-all, we would have compressed and just try to defend all the time and maybe nick a goal on the counter. But that didn't happen. That was a huge miss. That's not the kind of miss that you expect from your premier player. But again, everybody has had those misses, right? Aubameyang had a miss. Henry in the Champions League, finally, he shot it straight at the goalkeeper. So I wouldn't just like point this out, but yeah, it was a very disappointing miss. It could have definitely turned the game around to something else. Maybe we could have come up with a point. Maybe we could even nick the win.
You made an amazing point about Alisson. Like, because the thing is, right, like I don't see this as a miss, but more as a save from Alisson, right? Because there is another ball, like after Lacazette is substituted, Eddie comes along, and then a similar kind of like a through ball is played by Ceballos, and then Alisson comes off his line, comes out of the box to kick the ball away. Right, that's another save. Alisson made 2 great saves to deny. If it was not Alisson coming off his line, Eddie would have scored right there.
That's true. I agree with you. But the Lacazette goal, Alisson, all that he did was one move. I don't think that one move would have like prevented this guy from scoring, just because if you notice, he was having the ball. He was never looking up. Lacazette was never looking up. When you're a striker, it's very important at that point when you're one-on-one. You need to have a plan in mind, and when you have a plan like that, which was doomed to like not work, right from the beginning when he was not looking up, I was like, okay, this is not going to go in. It made no sense. He has to look up, and had he looked up, he would have seen where the goalkeeper was, where he moved, and like usually you see players trying to chip the goalkeeper from that point, not hit it straight at him. That was a big thing. I don't know if it was a lack of technique or lack of confidence, but that was a big thing. If you call it a save, I don't know. I would call it more like a miss by Lacazette. For me, it was definitely a miss. He should have scored that.
Yeah,
I just want to add one thing here. Like you talked about that offside one, right, where he was again one-on-one and he missed it.
Yeah.
And this happened very quickly. I think that was still running on his mind, because it looked more like a confidence issue for me, or like not having belief on himself. Like I'm not sure whether the offside one had an impact on him, but that looked like that for me.
But that's not how strikers have to work, right? Strikers shouldn't be like that. Strikers should be able to like push it out of their mind. The next chance I get, I have to put it out. I mean, that's one of the good things about Aubameyang, because he misses a lot of goals, but then it never gets to him. I think like it was Raul who said that, or no, I think Sven who said when we signed Auba, he said that Auba is a guy who will miss goals, but that's not going to impact him. He would not let things that happen on the ground impact him. And we have seen that a lot of times. Whenever he misses a penalty against some Spurs, and then he comes back and scores freaking all the goals that he wants. But then like... Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
No, I'd just like to add one more thing about Lacazette, since I've been following him for quite a long time. He's one who thrives in team's confidence, and then what actually the team instills in him. So even if you look at the past history of the slumps which Lacazette had, most of the time he's been able to come out of it was thankfully due to Auba saving him some of these goals, and then letting him take some of these penalty kicks in the past. So if not for Auba, I would strongly think that Lacazette would not have been here today, still with the team. So yes, I would agree with Ellen that possibly the offside was actually running in his mind, and he was trying to do a similar thing, which you shouldn't have, because the easiest thing even Theo Walcott would have actually done in that circumstance would have actually chipped the ball over the keeper, and Alisson is not still I would strongly think that Alisson is not the best keeper in the league. And Alisson could have been outsmarted had he been clever enough. But yeah, I think that was our chance. And then
I missed Carlos Vela there. Our chipping guy.
yeah.
Okay, so the
One-on-one with keeper, he's the best.
so we have got to the point of Carlos Vela. I think we have to move away from the Lacazette discussion right now. But the other thing that I wanted to bring out before the final goal, which was mostly like a goal that ended the game. But the thing is, one of my friend who's a Liverpool fan was mentioning to me like he was scared. He was scared till the 80th minute. Something might happen. We might score. It might be a draw. It might be a win. He was scared. That's a new thing because like when I was talking about Emery game, right? It was 3-1, but Liverpool scored all 3 goals before the 70th minute, and we scored the consolation goal with Torreira at the 83rd minute or something. So we were not in the game, and then we nicked a goal. That's what happened with the Emery led Arsenal to Liverpool. But we were in the game, but then the last goal happened. Jota was trying to shoot before that. I think there was a shot on the side netting which Salah was ruing about. Like Salah played Jota through, and then Jota shot on the side netting and stuff. But then like the goal came in. It was like a lot of people are talking about how the goal had like a handball in it. So Ellen, what do you think? Does that goal have a handball? Like, do we have to check that? Do we have to like the
No,
referee?
not exactly. Like my initial thought was also that was an handball, but like when I saw that more times later on, like as part of my analysis, it is like 50-50. Like it is okay even if you give it as handball, or if you don't give it as handball also it is okay. It is such kind of a thing. Like it was not exactly like the other handball decisions we are seeing now. So like I won't go much into that whether it was an handball or not, because it was more 50-50 and any decision is correct decision there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but the last stat that I would like to throw at you was Arteta's team has dropped more points from winning positions than any other PL side since he has taken over from December. We have lost 18 points from winning position. Is that something that we should be scared of, Bob? Do you think that this is a stat that kind of typifies? We have been talking about growth under Arteta and stuff, but we are the team that has dropped more points from winning position since December in PL.
No, see, it's definitely a matter of concern. Yes, I would agree with you, but bear in mind, Arteta has been only in the team since, for the last 9 months, and it's a very small sample. And then this team is actually undergoing a lot of rebuild at the moment. It's a complete shift in methodology in terms of what Emery was doing. To what Arteta is trying to do, and he doesn't have the right personnel. I mean, it would take at least 2 to 3 transfer windows for him, and then some budget as well, for him to get the team that he wants and then play the way that he would want. And if we happen to do that, like, I mean, after spending almost about 400 million plus on defenders, if like Pep and then still go on to lose games, that's pretty much a bad thing. That's actually the point when you start to worry it's not working. But we are in early times, and our team is relatively new, and they are still trying to they are trying to get used to the system, and then they are trying to see. For one example, I would say that we are doing passing triangles much these days with the keeper on, which is something which you don't see it much often. Even in high pressure pressing games, we've been coolly doing that passing triangles and trying to get the ball out of those front 3, which is something
with the defense that we have right now. You have to mention
correct.
that
Yes,
as well.
exactly. Yeah, we don't have the right personnel for the job, but we are still trying to do the job in the best way that we can. And these things, of course, takes time. Once you forge a team, and once you instill a mentality, and once it starts working in the training ground, that's when you can expect to see results around. So say suppose Liverpool are in such a state, they would exactly know what they need to do to try and be on the winning side of things. And that took them like a good 3 to 4 years for them to, get there. And we would, of course, if we continue to go around this path, we can definitely shrug this off and then, try to be better. But this is a team, this is a work in progress. And I feel it's not probably necessary to go into these stats. It's something, yes, we would like to get it corrected, but of course it's going to take a while. It's not actually a one-stop wonder.
Yeah, that's so true, because Arteta in his post-match said the same thing when they talked about Liverpool. He was like, because we have a huge gulf in quality, and it's not something that we could do with just training alone, which I think is a shot at the transfer spending. Arun, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so just one more thing to add. It is definitely a shot at the transfer spending, but if you think about it, we have a system. It was a system that has been put in place. It's going to take time, like Bob said. We never had the system before. We never had the system during Emery's time. We never had the system during the last few years of Wenger's reign. There was no cohesion. Players were doing what they wanted, especially during Emery's time. It was very funny. It was like watching a group of us play football in a ground where everybody just running behind the ball, or like watching a football scene from a movie. So for me right now,
Shaolin soccer, Emery
exactly, Shaolin
version.
soccer would have been so much better, honestly. But the thing is, right now, we have to trust the system. The system is yielding results. Like Bob said, we are playing out from the back no matter what. We're creating all these passing triangles. We're waiting to get the opposition players committed before we can do something. And while they're doing it, they're not panicking. If he can get that with the current personnel that he has, then I would definitely not doubt the system. I would doubt the players. So more important for me at this point is investment and getting the players that he wants rather than doubting the system. The system is working fine, and he has shown that he can get something done within like 9 months, which is huge considering where we were like at the end of when Emery left.
Mhm.
So, and given that, I would really feel the system is perfect. Not perfect yet. It's getting close to perfection, but it's very much dictated by the players who are playing in the system. So he gets his players, it's going to be much better. So I wouldn't panic with the stats, and I wouldn't like start doubting Arteta yet.
Bob, so moving on from the game, and Arun kind of touched on it. The system is working, but will he get his players? Do you think we'll get our players? Like, or our seems to be dragging on. Partey seems to be not happening. Is there like other players that we should be looking at, or we are looking at, instead of like
See,
pursuing something that we will never get? Like, we don't want a Benzema situation and ending up with Giroud.
I would say better be prepared for such a situation, because looking at the current state of things, right, we are not able, I mean, we've not been able to ship the players that we wanted to move since a very long time. I mean, right since when the window opened, we've been not so public, but we've been making enough statements to say that probably Socrates doesn't have a future, or Torreira doesn't have a future, or even Mustafi is up for sale. I mean, if the right price comes in, or Kolasinac doesn't have a future. Despite all the things, you have not been able to sell even at least one of them. Yeah, Martinez was definitely a bargain sell, and one that definitely has helped in get some much needed funds for us, but we've not been able to ship the players that we want, and that has actually affected the incomings for the club as well, because we've been very tight on the numbers here, and we can't afford to have more people coming in just to not really sit around and then earn wages. That's not how this club works. So unfortunately with this, his hands has been really tied with the players that he could go out for. Maybe he could have actually pursued the board to get both OR and party approved, but that's probably not going to happen until we are very clear in terms of what the outgoings are.
But what's the plan B if we don't get over on party, and we need to get players? Like, we have seen it time and again that midfield needs it. Like, who are the players that comes to your mind? Throw me some names.
See, I have a lot of players that I've been tracking from other clubs, who I follow. So if I were to say some exciting talents in the midfield position, I would go for Zakaria, who actually is a Swiss defensive midfielder.
Another
Playing for
Swiss.
another Swiss, another player who's been playing at the Bundesliga at Borussia Mönchengladbach. So he is definitely a good player. He's tall. He's very versatile. He's got speed. He's got everything that you would want in an Arsenal player or in a player that you would want for that position. But will that happen is a big $1 million question. So other players, there are actually some exciting players as well. Mark Roca, who is actually playing in the second division now with Espanyol. He's a good player, definitely as well. But he's got a lot of admirers in other clubs. So maybe that could not potentially happen, or we might not know. There is one interesting player that I've been following since the start of last season. That's his name is Griltish. He's actually playing as a defensive midfielder for Hoffenheim. The system in Hoffenheim, as the way that they're playing, it's supporting him very much, to the fact that he's been very, very, very organized in his defensive capabilities. And then he has actually been a very good contributor in terms of their pass breaking ability, or whatever that you would want in a defensive midfielder. So if I were to think of an alternatives, of course, Partey would be the main guy that we would need to go for, because we need someone who can really come in and then start commanding that, or stand behind, or the attackers, just to make sure that the ball doesn't come back. But if we were to miss out on him for any possible reasons, then we could potentially go out for the names that I mentioned. Again, there could be surprise names which could come out during the last couple of days of the transfer window, as it always does. Because, I mean, if you could recollect history, there's been some huge names who immediately be making themselves available for whatever reasons at their club. So we have to just keep our eyes and ears open, and just wait for these potential players to start popping up, so we can make the right moves.
Interesting. But Ellen, there has been talks about Saliba going out. We were hoping for him to be our next savior, but I don't think he's into Arteta's plans yet. There are talks about him going out. What do you make of that?
No, the reason being that, as Bob and Arun pointed out, we are not able to sell all our targets. Now, if we are able to sell our people, right, we would have at least retained Saliba, played him few more games, because Arteta still believes that he's not a person who can step up immediately. He needs time. He would have got that time within our team itself if we are able to sell these players. But with these players not able to be sold, right? Saliba is one who can. Any team would be ready to take him on a loan, because he's of good quality. So that is why those rumors have come in. But until that happens, right, we'll never be known. But I wouldn't be surprised if he went on a loan, because we have some good defensive thing. Say now with other players not being sold, right, there are more CBs in the team now as backups.
Yeah, the problem with us selling is that Arsenal don't want these players because they are not quality, and that's exactly the reason other teams don't want these players too.
No, I will have a different approach there. This year, right, the transfers are completely different to whatever we have seen in the last 4-5 years.
Yeah, but still, you could see Aston Villa making those signings. Aston Villa is making all those signings, and every club is making those sales. Chelsea is trying to make sales. I mean,
if you
COVID
see, right,
does impact it.
No. COVID has a big impact. Even Thiago's thing, right? Even though with Liverpool having complete thing, they were just paying 5 million upfront and remaining later. And there are other clubs, right? The clubs where we are trying to buy, they needed money. Even Bayern Munich come up and said that they're going to lose huge amount of money because of no people coming to the ground. There are a lot of other impact that is going to happen this year also. So teams where we are trying to buy, they need immediate money to pay loans or other stuff. So they cannot reduce their amount. And that is happening. Like, say, the team who wants to buy, like, say, in the past, right, they would have got one surplus defender, so that, like, it's 8 or 10 million, which is not a big amount. They will be, like, okay with having a backup. But now, right, in this current situation, if they get some other player, or like one of their players is not leaving, they're not going to buy a backup immediately, because that 8 million, 10 million is also a huge amount this year. So that is why, like, the transfers are very slow all across the continent. And that is also the reason why we are not able to sell, because all our people are just backups. They won't start, like, unless it's a very lower league.
Okay, Arun, final thoughts on the transfer market.
Final thoughts on the transfer market. Just one player that we're not talking about now, Boubakary Soumaré. He's from Lille, and he was linked to us, not just us, Liverpool, Chelsea, United, everybody during the January window. And I'm very surprised why no one's talking about him now. He's very good prospect. And I feel that we will be ending this window with just maybe getting our or Jorginho on loan. I don't see party happening. So the way I see it going on is for the next 6 months, we'll be playing games. It'll be very, very evident that the midfield areas where we are not having anyone, and we might make a move in the January window for a midfielder. So that's how I see it. And Saliba, yeah, it's right. He has to go on loan. He might not get a lot of game time playing at Arsenal this season. But the thing is, you remove Saliba out, we do not have a good right-sided defender at all. We'll be left
Mustafi.
I really meant what I said when I said we would be having a good player around. So holding is not good either. So when you're talking about Mustafi, you're talking about the worst of the worst. And like I said, there's a reason why we're not able to sell them, because if we don't want them, no one else does. We got him for 35 million. I'll be happy if we recoup 3.5 million from that. So that's how I see it going on. I see us getting one midfielder now and maybe one in the January window.
Oh, okay. Bob, any other exciting thing happening across Europe? Any exciting games that we should have a look at? Anything that happened across Europe that you want to talk about?
Actually, there are a couple of games that I've been wanting to talk about. So if you look at in the La Liga, so Ansu Fati, I'm not sure if you guys
Barcelona.
He again scored today against Celta Vigo. So Barcelona won the game 3-0. It's just amazing, So the last,
I think they were playing with 10 men for almost like 50 minutes of the game, Barcelona.
That's right, yes. And they were so dominant. And if you look at the way that Koeman has been playing, this whole setup is they are trying to reduce the dependency on Messi. And it was quite evident from the game, which is a huge shift in the way that Barcelona has been playing over the years, because Messi has been an integral, and he is still an integral part of the team. But just that, with all his public outburst and everything, maybe the team or the board is just preparing for a situation that he might finally ask him for a transfer towards the end of next season. So they're just slowly changing their game plan away from him, which was an absolutely a different thing. Or I would have been completely got smacked if I had told that last season or something like that earlier. So that was one thing which I really wanted to mention there. And then I also wanted to touch upon Aaron Hickey, who is actually a Scottish talent.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Now he actually has chosen to join Bologna this season, and he's already made his start there. It was very funny unveiling video, and probably the worst of the lot that I've seen over time. They've actually tried. I mean, whoever has actually done that, really, I don't think they deserve a job there. They could have done much better in that case. But having said that, Aaron Hickey is a right back, a defensive midfielder. He sees his future in the defensive midfield area, or in the midfield area, to be fair. So they, Mihalovic, who's the Bologna's coach, he has got the history of actually giving a lot of starts to youngsters. When he was actually the coach of AC Milan, he was the one to give Gigi Donnarumma a start, as well as there were myth mentioning that he was the one who recommended the Roma coach back then to start Totti when he was a player alongside with Totti at Roma. So I mean, he actually believes in a lot of young talent as such, and then it was rightful that Hiki chose Bologna over other teams. I'm just hoping that he would have a good season there. Bologna as a team have a good team, and then they have a very good mentality in terms of how to approach games. So yeah, that's one of the things that I wanted to mention about. Inter is on a roll. They actually defeated Pippo Inzaghi's Benevento 4-1, which was the final scoreline. So they are actually getting better from last season on. I'm just hoping that they would give a serious fight to Juventus there in the Scudetto race for Scudetto. So this is as much as interesting news that I could talk about from the top of my mind. Of course, there's actually a lot of other things as well happening there. But yeah, I would try and present more in terms of every league. I mean, I have some few things to talk about in the French league as well. Ligue 1, probably will have it as a separate section in the future parts to come, and then I'll be able to elaborate more on every of those top 5 leagues in Europe.
Yeah, I hope so.
Talking about Juventus and Messi, Ronaldo Messi showdown in Champions League. Did you see the draw?
Oh yeah, it's actually a very tasty draw, isn't it? So one definitely to look out for. They're both two different players at the moment. Both of them are not the center of gravity anymore, with other players taking precedence. Yes. But it would still be a very interesting draw, because Messi would take inspiration from all those rivalries over the years, and he would definitely try and put up a performance, even though I quite doubt he would do it for the current Barcelona team and the board. But still, he would definitely want to prove one against his old rival. So yeah, that's definitely a game to look out for in the Champions League.
And the European League Twitter handle, right? They have welcomed Manchester United to UEL after the draw yesterday.
Well, it is what it is.
I think many of us were predicting a very damp draw for them. They've got some exciting fixtures there. And yeah, I think as an Arsenal fan, we could very soon be hoping them. I mean, for them to join us in the Europa League.
Okay, so talking about Messi, actually, there was a question raised by one of our listeners. Yeah, we do have listeners. So he asked us a question about loyalty. Is loyalty like? Is it still existing in football, or is loyalty overrated right now? Bob, what do you think about that?
It's a very loosely coupled word that I would say, because loyalty, whatever that you've heard or you've seen in players in the past, is not the same as what's being followed right now. People would say they are loyal until or unless they get a better offer, or a better wage at a different club. And who values all the things? I mean, I'm talking about from players' perspective. Who would really want to look at and do things in a club which doesn't offer them in terms of either their wage, or B, in terms of their aspirations, in terms of what the club should achieve or what the club is moving towards. And if they are not able to get all those things that they need, then probably I don't think they would be really thinking twice about making a move out. And what we saw when we grew up watching football is not the same as the football that we are seeing today. It's got a much more commercial element, and there's actually a lot of social media and things involved. It's not the same anymore. And I don't think you should actually put loyalty into this context, because it's much different to what it was before, which is not relevant in the current circumstances anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Traditionally, when we say like North London club, Arsenal, we don't have any North London players actually. I mean, apart from our academy talent, we don't have any London players. We don't have a core of English players. If you consider that we are moving away from the whole concept of club football. Arun, there was another question. I would direct this to you. Last season, we had this amazing surprise sale of Alex Iwobi to Everton. I don't know how we pulled that off. Everton kind of um, was duped. I guess we kind of had drinks over and like they were like, yeah, I'll take Alex
No,
Iwobi
the
out of your hands.
story where like they sell a dog and they say like they put a sheep's thing on it and say,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
here's a
yeah,
sheep.
yeah,
I think that's pretty much what
yeah,
happened.
yeah. So, do you see something like that happening? Do you see someone going like for something like Nelson or maybe like Balogun? I don't know. Are we going to get some kind of like surprise but happy surprise sales around the end of the transfer?
You,
This
do
is
you
also a
want me?
question.
Yeah, do you want me to talk about like the surprises that I want to happen or the surprises that are likely to happen?
A bit of both, I guess.
A bit of both. Okay. So in that case, like I honestly I don't see any big player moving at this point. I like just to put in
Ozil.
context, I'm saying because no, I don't see him moving. Ozil is not going to move. He's going to stay. The thing is, I'm just trying to put it in context because Iwobi got his 40 million. So 40 million is a lot of money in any transfer window, leave alone this one. So if we were to be talking about players who could fetch that kind of money, no, I don't see anyone who could fetch us that kind of money leaving, because we're struggling to push players out. Mustafi is injured, no one's going to get him. And even if we do like try and all the other players that we're actually talking about, like the Kolasinaches, the Socrates, we have been trying to like push them out for a long time. So it is not really going to be a surprise if those guys leave. So to answer you on that, I really don't think we're going to be having any big last minute surprise just because of how difficult it has been so far to get our players out. It's not like we've not been trying. We've been like going around everywhere in Europe, knocking on everybody's door and trying to offload Guendouzi. And that has not happened. Like this guy was supposed to be like a generational talent, supposed to like lead the team and all that stuff. The way in which he was hyped up last season and the things that are happening right now with him are kind of an indication of how the market is going and how the kind of players that people want and how much they're willing to spend. So in that situation, I really don't see someone who could command a huge fee going out or someone who's experienced and a better player going out. If at all someone does go out, it would be like all these, shall I say, useless fellows kicked out. But that's the only thing that I see. Like apart from that, no, I don't see any surprises.
All right. Okay, that's two questions. We would try to take more like in future episodes, but I guess like that's enough for today. And one last thing is we have to do our predictions for the Sheffield game. So let's start with Ellen. Ellen, what's your prediction for the Sheffield United game?
It will be 2-0.
Okay.
Sheffield is at like a very bad position. I don't expect them to score and they'll definitely concede.
Yeah. Ellen says 2-0. Bob, what's your take?
Sheffield United did succeed in taking 4 points off us last season, so it was
Exactly.
definitely a much different team. But this time around, it's definitely going to be different, and we're playing at home. I mean, and Sheffield haven't really scored any goals so far in the league. I expect us to be very dominant in the game. I expect a 3-0 win.
Okay, 3-0. Arun.
It would be a 2-0 or 2-1. Like Bob said, it's a home game. Sheffield have not been good. Like I have been telling this right from the beginning. They had like an off season last time where they came in the top 10, but that's not going to repeat. Not just because of them not strengthening or becoming better. It's about the teams around them. Like they've gotten a lot better. So Sheffield will probably go back to where they belong, 10 to 20. And in the situation, it might be a little difficult for us. We might concede the usual goal that we always do, but I see us winning. I don't think we should be having any trouble with that.
Okay. I see us winning by a huge margin, like 4-0 or something, because I feel that like
That's bold.
yeah, because Sheffield has been like really shit. Let's put it that way. And then like we have been having like Aubameyang hasn't scored like last game, which is a oddity for him, and Willian hasn't really kicked off, or like our midfield hasn't really kicked off. So I guess we'll get like a lot of shots, a lot of goals, and this is a game where we could kind of impose ourselves. We don't have to like sit back and like do what we did against Liverpool, or like we don't have to do that. We could kind of like, and I think they would play into our hands. So I think like we'll get a 4-0 win.
Wow.
But
That's a very bold prediction, man.
Yeah. Bolder than Bob.
Yes,
man.
yeah, but that's what I hope. I think maybe, but that's the Sheffield game. So thanks everyone. It's been a nice pod. See you after the Sheffield game. I guess like it's going to be an international break, and we'll have a lot more to discuss. Bye and thanks. And that is the end of the pod. For more Arsenal related content, please like, subscribe, and share to the Awake Winners podcast. See you next week.